As a veteran of the U.S. Army, I'm really interested in issues around national security and defense. This question goes to Ms. Pittenger. And one of the issues that came up early on in President Obama's administration was related to Gitmo and the trials in New York. Do you support the use of military detention and trial for enemy combatants rather than extending them constitutional rights reserved for citizens?
I do indeed support that, and what I will say is they have taken a war to everyday citizens. They are not acting like everyday citizens. It's guerrilla warfare. You want to play war, you're going to play with the soldiers. I do support that. What I would say too is part of our national security is we need to deal with the fact that right now our military is overextended, exhausted, and that we're trying to find new ways to bring new people into the military. And it's extremely discouraging when it comes out that when they were called out to do a job and they do it, their Department of Justice, which they fight for and that they pay tax dollars to, is going to take them to court for doing the job that their commander-in-chief told them to do in the first place. I think we need to get from our military. It's hard to get behind them if no one wants to join because they're waiting for their own tax dollars to be used to punish them and penalize them for doing the job their government sent them out to do. So I think we need to get behind them. I think that we need to make sure there is clarity and transparency because we are in agreements with various nations on how we treat prisoners of war, and we want our men and women who are taken as prisoners of war to be treated with respect. So I believe we can behave respectfully, but still treat them exactly as they are, which is a guerrilla, an enemy combatant, any number of things that you want to call them. So that's pretty important to me. Yes, sir.
The same question to Senator Patrick. Do you support the use of military detention and trial for enemy combatants rather than extending them constitutional rights reserved for U.S. citizens?
It's the easiest question you could have asked of the night. You know, when the world gets in trouble and they dial 911, they expect the United States Marines, Army, Navy, and Air Force to show up.
Absolutely.
No country has spilled more blood or given more of its treasure, not to conquer, but to free other people. And I am sick and tired of the world being critical of our military and our military justice system, but I'm really disgusted that our own president is critical of our military and our military justice system. We are not a good country that occasionally does great things. We are a great country that occasionally makes mistakes, but we are a great country. And we need all elected officials from both parties being proud to stand for this country and stand for the military. Yeah. And I can tell you, yesterday when the President announced he was pulling 33,000 troops out of Afghanistan, the one thing that I know, that if I were a U.S. Senator, I would always urge the President, and it could be another Texan for all we know, to listen to our generals. Our soldiers have never lost a war. Our politicians have lost battlefields. So we can count on, if I quit testing the waters, and if my exploratory committee ends, and if I get there, and if you're kind enough to send me, and I'm blessed, that you will have someone who will stand strongly behind our military and understand that every night when we lay down our head on our pillow in peace, it's because there's a new next great generation. Like many of you who served in World War II, the great generation of my dad, there's a new great generation. And I am amazed and proud every time I turn on the television or read a story about a new 18, 19, 20-year-old like my nephew who's getting ready to go to Afghanistan, ready to stand up and fight for this country. And we owe it to every man and woman who goes overseas to give them our full backing. And when they have an enemy combatant who's a terrorist come to this country, well, we proved that a little tough love got some information to kill Osama bin Laden.
I'll ask you the same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
No. I know it. And I know Guantanamo Bay. And I've been there. And I've looked in the cells, and I've looked into the eyes from here to there of the most evil people in the world. And they want to kill us, and our children, and our grandchildren. I have seen the room, the $4 million tribunal room that was built for these cases that is state of the art. And it's very nicely air-conditioned, your taxpayers' dollars at work. I have seen the empty cells at Guantanamo Bay because we have sent some people home to turn around and kill American troops. Not only would I uphold Guantanamo Bay, I think we ought to open up more for the states to use the vacancies there. It's a great state-of-the-art prison, and they ought to be leasing it out to high-level prisoners from the states if they need extra space. But that's another story, another way the government can get some revenue. Guantanamo Bay is a place for very bad people, and it is unconscionable the President of the United States would even think of placing such a thing. But nothing made me more proud when I was there than to see the young men and women, and they are young, guarding those high-level prisoners, an all-volunteer force. It would make you proud to see what they are up against. And these are people who did not have to serve in harm's way, but they choose to protect our freedom. And I will protect their freedom until my very last breath. As a United States Senator, I will make sure our veterans have what they deserve. I have been to BAMC, it's in my hometown, and I will tell you that our wounded warriors are an inspiration to anybody, and I dare anybody to allow them not to have the weapons they need, the care they need when they come home, and to love all the Americans, and I'll be there representing them and you. Thank you.
Our next question came from one of our participants and is also going to be of interest to many here at King Street because we had a gentleman come in and speak on this subject just a few weeks ago, the fair tax. And this will go first to you, Mr. Cruz. What is your stance on the fair tax?
I support it.
Mr. Addison, what is your position on the fair tax?
I too support it, but I have such little trust for the liberals that I will not even entertain changing the tax code because I don't trust the rascals until we have dealt with spending. We don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. And until we ratchet down the spending and get back within reason on expenditures, I will not risk being tricked by those rascals. They are devious and they are so effective, and Republicans frequently walk right into their traps. And they know how to lay them, they're experts at it. The media loves them, the media helps them to set the traps, and when conservatives try to expose them, you never hear about it because of the liberal media. And so I'm all for it, but that is down. I plan to use every ounce of energy that I have to get the spending under control. Then, after we have won that great victory, then we can go in and reform the tax code to where it is fair. I have 5 corporations, which is a necessary evil because of all the bureaucracies that regulate the funeral industry, okay? And it is outrageous the sums of money that I have to spend on a CPA. He's a great guy, but I would just as soon keep that money myself than to write him those checks every month, okay? And so in business, we are so crippled, we are so hamstrung because of the tax code. Which is one of the reasons that I favor drastically changing the corporate tax code. I'd like to mention that I don't mind telling you that I'm biased in terms of manufacturing. As being on the school board for 15 years, I can tell you that about 12% of our population, student population at any given time, are special needs children. 10% of those will grow up and need jobs. They'll have families. And we have outsourced those jobs. If the politicians don't like to talk about low-skilled jobs, they want to talk about high-skilled jobs. But you go to Walmart or Lowe's and you look at where that product was made, it's hard to find something made in America. I favor a 10% tax on any product made in America that's got at least 75% domestic content. Reopen the factories that are closed. Let them have a tax-free for 10 years. Bring those jobs back to America. Give them the incentives.
Same question to Mr. Leffert. What's your position on the fair tax?
as a business person, economist, I'm in favor of consumption tax, which a fair tax is. I will tell you, though, that I would be very happy if we could go so far down the line that we took the existing tax code, simplified it substantially. Understand our existing tax code has more words in it than the Bible. That ought to tell us that we're fundamentally anything. I would like to see that made much simpler. My view is that 75% of the people in this nation can file taxes that would be so simple that it's not any different from the receipt that you get in size from going down to some way of buying a sample. But simplify it, get all the hundreds of millions of dollars worth of unprotected work that goes in figuring out how to play the tax game and get that out of the game. Reduce the rates, flatten it, broaden it. I would be very happy if we accomplished that. Because I will tell you, and I hope I have made this clear, the spending is a major issue. It has to be addressed. But we can't walk away from the fact that we have to have a strong and vibrant economy. A tax code that's simpler, that's flatter, that reduces the rates, especially on corporate taxes, that takes our return tax, our dividends, our capital gains, and takes those down lower. In other words, take the existing piece and ensure that it's going to be out there permanent. Not do this game of extending it for 2 years when businesses don't have any idea what the situation is going to be in the next 18 months or 2 years. I would tell you that that would accomplish an awful lot because we have to ensure this economy is going to grow strong. The reality of it is tax code and regulatory policy have destroyed jobs. We have to reduce substantially the regulations that are in place so that we encourage people to go back and make those risk-based investments that produce jobs. Again, push it over to the private sector, allow the private sector to do what it can do, but ensure it's a stable field. Ensure the tax policy, regulatory policy, our energy policy are all common sense based, and they return it back to the private sector. If we do those things, then we're going to be in good shape for the next decade.